I disordinati. Una storia di persone tutte diverse eppure ugualissime, perché a chi di noi non è capitato di sentirsi fuori dall'ordinario, a chi di noi la vita non ha regalato un po' di disordine. I disordinati è un podcast sulle scelte, caratteristiche e condizioni che, in un modo o nell'altro, in un mondo o nell'altro, ci hanno cambiato. A noi che, invece, pensavamo di restare sempre così, disordinati.
We're back in the Disordinati podcast. Questo è il nostro ultimo episodio ed è il nostro ultimo episodio in inglese. And I'm very happy to have with me Ines.
Hello.
So Ines and I met in 2014, so 10 years ago, in London during an Erasmus program. And we immediately connected because, and I think I can speak for both of us, the university where we're doing the exchange was a business university and it was a quite posh one, let's say. So there was a specific type of people that was attending the university and we sort of connected over other interests, let's say. And it's nice because even though Ines lives in Lisbon, so in Portugal, we've managed over time to still meet. The few times I've been to Portugal, we managed to see each other. So that was great. And the reason why I wanted to have Ines here is because she created in 2016, if I remember correctly, this non-profit organization called No Bully. And it's growing and growing. The objective is to end bullying in school. So the first question that I have is, what does this organization do? Like, what do you do in practice?
So thank you, Chiara, for inviting me. And what we do, it's mostly trainings and activities in schools. So we work with the schools and everyone in them to prevent this problem of bullying. And also if it comes up, we give them more tools to deal with it, because most times there aren't many resources and bullying keeps happening and nothing really solves it. So we try to bring new ways to deal with it.
Do the schools call you? They know that you exist and they say, we want you to come like on this day and explain to children what bullying is? Or is it more like...
Sometimes we address the school, sometimes they come to us. And nowadays we have built this program that we do throughout 1 year or 2 years, where we go through many activities in the same school, because what we want is basically to change a bit the culture, because many schools have a more violent or aggressive culture, and we want to make it more empathetic culture, collaborative culture. So everyone needs to understand this change and be available to change it, especially the adults that set the culture, right? So we work a lot with the teachers and the staff, also with parents when they are interested, and then with the students, obviously. But it's mostly like a change of the environment that we want to achieve.
Creating the right context, the right environment is then crucial for children who are very malleable to then develop into good human beings.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's exactly the lack of values that you see in adults that makes you behave in a certain way as a child. What are the ages that, I mean, you say schools, but is it like primary school or any school?
Normally it's more middle school that we've been working with, because it's where bullying is more prevalent. It's in these ages from 10 to 15. Also, they are changing from children to teenagers, and the hormones and the group dynamics are very tough, especially at 12, 13, it's the toughest time. My school years was the same, right? And I've worked with primary schools, and now we're planning to work more in a preventive way to develop emotional skills and also support teachers to have a more positive approach to students. and prevent some problems after that.
We met in this business school when we were doing the exchange, no? So how did you transition from studying business to wanting to create something of this importance but completely different? When did you start this project and you started having these ideas of wanting to do this?
Actually, I went to business already with this intention of doing more social businesses and trying to improve society in some way to contribute. When I met you, I was already leading a project it's called ReFood, and it's a project here in Portugal that had some years, and they were expanding to new locations, and I was implementing that project. It's about bringing food that was not eaten to people who need it. So I was doing that already as a volunteer, and my goal was always to work as a manager, but in this area of social impact. And after I finished my bachelor's, I was working with my mom in her company, and we decided to create a new project around these topics of emotional development and coaching and all of this. And actually, No Bully was a project in the US that already existed with a lot of experience dealing with bullying. We found them online very randomly. And we talked to them, and they accepted to teach us the methodology and bring it to Portugal as like a franchise. So yeah, everyone thinks I'm a psychologist because I work with emotions and all this stuff. I'm not. My mom is actually, but I didn't go that way. But I say I manage this project. That's my main occupation, and of course I'm also a trainer and facilitator, and that's why people get a bit confused with my initial education. Nowadays, what we study in the university, then we can change our path and go many different ways. So it's just a base. And of course, I've learned things that were useful for my current job. And managing a nonprofit is similar to a company.
I also come from a very hybrid background, so I couldn't agree more that education is just the basis for something else, and it gives you the skills that you might use or not, but it's still part of you and enriches you somehow. And what motivated you in the sense that to specifically want to focus on that? Like, is there an episode of your life that sort of worked as an epiphany and you said, okay, I want to focus on bullying, and what does bullying mean to you as well?
Yeah, there were many episodes actually. And the strongest one was when I was 14. One of my classmates was bullying many people in my class, including me, in some points, and it was hard to navigate for me. I was fortunate to have support from my friends and my family, so I wasn't alone. But still, I suffered with that constant harassment from this guy and other people in my classroom that were supporting him because he was like a leader in the group. And this is a very common situation. Luckily, it wasn't very serious or any physical attacks. It was more like a social pressure and rumors and calls and just putting me down somewhere. Somehow they wanted to make me hurt or feel less strong. And it took a few months, almost one school year. So it was relevant enough for me to think about it a lot, like how should people deal with this? Like, I didn't feel support from the school. I also didn't look for it much, but teachers saw what was happening, and they didn't do anything. And also my classmates, my friends also didn't do anything. So I felt a bit like I have to solve this by myself, even though like I know people like me and they support me, but they don't interfere in the problem. They're not gonna protect me. So I have to deal with this by myself. And I feel like many kids also feel that, many people in general. And that's why when I found this project, I felt like this makes a lot of sense to bring to Portugal, because there wasn't any program, any solution apart from the typical things that don't work. And that's why I created here in Portugal, and I've kept going, because I really feel like there must be something, because kids are always suffering from bullying. It's a constant.
Children can also be quite mean, because a lot of them, a lot of us, when we were children, we don't have filters, and as you were saying, it's difficult also when it's embedded in the culture. I'm now in the UK, and I see that in schools, and also it's 2024, so a lot of things have changed compared to when we were going to school. And they have a lot of lessons on civic education and how to be kind to others and all of that. But maybe coming from also southern context like ours, the school environment is different. I don't know if it was a type of bullying that was directly linked to being a woman, but that was, for instance, in my case, I also experienced it. And when you said that, luckily it was not physical bullying, I was thinking that, and I mean, you probably know this because you're doing what you're doing, but the emotional type of abuse that you get when you're bullied, and thankfully, let's say today we can put a word to it, which is bullying. But we've experienced so many of these type of bullying episodes without knowing that it was bullying.
Even if it's not physical, any type of bullying can hurt you a lot. And it also depends on the context and how strong you are feeling that time, how much support you have. So my case wasn't the worst, because I had support. I was a bit more confident at that time. And they also didn't really touch any very soft spots. Honestly, I was like, what's going on? This is so crazy. This is so stupid.
Yeah.
If it was just one episode, it wouldn't be relevant. But the problem is that it took so much time to end. And I feel like there's nothing I can do to stop this. It's so annoying and constant, and I never knew what they were gonna do after this. Anything was possible with those guys.
It's unpredictable, and middle school, it's also when you're adolescent, your body changes. And when I think about my experience, the middle school were the worst years of my life, also because, in Italy, I'm not the typical body type, and also because I'm Austrian, so that explains a lot. But I remember I was bullied for that by guys, of course, because, I didn't have the shapes that were expected at that time. And it's something that still today, it's something I think about, when someone makes a comment about my body, or so it definitely has a long-term effect. And even if it's a small comment, it can go a long way. So I think what you're doing is amazing in this sense. And when you think about your job and the activities you do, what is the most beautiful aspect of this organization and job for you?
It's very nice when the students come to us and thank us or show us somehow that this makes a good impact on them. It's not always like this, because many times they are resistant to these activities or to think or talk about this stuff, especially the ones who do the bullying.
Good point.
Very happy to talk about this, or they pretend they don't do anything, but we can see that probably they are the ones who are doing it. So sometimes we are not so welcomed, but it's very nice when this happens. And they also, at the end of the activities, we ask the students to write a little note. How was this for you, with some questions. And when they write, this was very important, I really enjoyed it, something like this, we think, okay, we're doing something good. They see the value, and teenagers are not the most complimenting people, right? So if they say it and it's anonymous, I'm sure it's true.
And do you collect them and then look at them all together?
Yeah. So we check them, and we see their feedback. Also, we ask them for suggestions and what they like the most. We always want to improve our activities and what we bring to them. I get surprised because sometimes it's so hard, they're not being collaborative. They are pushing like against us, and then they write, "It was very nice. I really enjoyed it." And I was like, "Oh, okay, good to know."
Typical of the adolescent, not to put like a cool face, but in
Yeah, yeah.
reality to like feel all the feelings
Yeah,
and
make it hard for the adults. You're not friends. You're here to
to
to fight.
evaluate us. But do
Yeah.
you ever see them again? Like, do you go, once and do a session and then see if
Um,
there has been an effect, or is this not possible?
yeah, we more and more we try to have several sessions with the same students. We think it's more impactful if we go along the year and stay with them several times. Also, we want to reach more people, so it's always a balance. We can't be for 10 years with the same 20 students. Of course, we want to be more times than just the first one. So now we're doing like 5 or maximum 10 sessions, something like this, with the same students, and work like deeper with them, with their own issues, and creating a relationship with them. I think that's important, so they trust us and they want to open up. We're working more on that side.
So it's the teacher mainly who refers you to a specific class, because maybe in that class she knows or he knows that there are some bullies, or is it a random selection of classes?
There's a lot of criteria. Sometimes we do a questionnaire in the beginning, and we see which classes have probably more bullying situations. We ask the students anonymously. We also ask the teachers who they think it's that would need more intervention. And now we are doing something different, that is to work more in a team with the teacher. We're going to choose the classes based on which teachers want us there and want to work with us.
Mhm.
We go more together with the teacher, because the teacher is going to stay with them until the rest of the year or even more years.
Yeah.
So we want to invest more in the teacher and how they can support the students.
Absolutely, it's like a key figure for them.
Mhm.
And does the job somehow transfer to everyday life for you, in the sense that you're used to doing this as a job? Of course, you want to end bullying in schools, but I don't know if you're in the supermarket or in the street and you see a bullying episode, even if it's mild, like does this, create some incentive for you to act immediately, or even tell your friends? And
I think I'm more sensitive to the little things that people would ignore. Like the other day, I went to an activity, and the guy leading the activity was being a bully, but no one seemed to care. And I was like, this is not correct. Like, what's going on? Like, you're being mean.
yeah.
And maybe if I wasn't in this area, I would ignore it and just feel a bit weird. But now I clearly identify this issue very easily. I'm not like some people would get like super sensitive or emotional with this. I think I got a bit used to to seeing it, so I'm like, yeah, this is the reality. I don't want to be cynical, but I also don't. I also can't be too sensitive in the point that I see bullying and start crying because I couldn't work. It's a balance. I think many people work with these type of issues, or even doctors or nurses or psychologists. You need to be like empathetic to care, but not so much that you get into your feelings and get too emotional. So it's a balance, and there's a thing called I don't know the name in English, but like you get too tired of feeling people's feelings that you get exhaustion.
I think I've got it.
Yeah.
But I understand you have to be also proactive and effective in your
Mhm.
actions when you see something like this. Yeah. Does it ever like surprise you, even, people who are your friends or people who are closely related to you, that they might do some bullying without knowing? You were saying no, they were not. No one was recognizing that was bullying. Like, do you see
Yeah.
that there is a sort of ignorance on what bullying actually is? Because now, of course, we live in a society where some people call it woke, so people are much
Yeah.
more aware of different problematics and
Yeah.
But how do you deal with that? Like if you see a lack of of knowledge about bullying, because it's not something that we talk about regularly.
Yeah, sometimes the word even is counterproductive because especially in schools they say, oh no, this isn't bullying, so we don't need to do anything about it. And I'm like, okay, I don't know if this is exactly bullying or not. And also, you asked me what is bullying. For me, I didn't answer that. So before, bullying was an aggression between people, peers. I don't know, it can be in the same school or same job or family or something, where there shouldn't be in a hierarchy, so they should be at the same level, but for some reason one person or one side has more power than the other one, so there's a power imbalance that isn't natural. It's comes in some way that shouldn't happen. And so this person can be mean or beat or exclude or something the other one, and the other one doesn't have the skills to stop it right away, so it continues for a long time. Sometimes it's in a week, sometimes it's a year, sometimes a lifetime. I don't know. It doesn't have a specific duration. But in schools they say a lot, oh, it was just one time, so it doesn't count. It's not a problem. I'm a bit like one time, but what happens before and after this aggression? They are friends and they get along and it's fine. I'm sure there must be something else, maybe that the teachers are not so aware of, but it's a relationship that is in balance for sure, and that something is going on. Maybe not so severe. It's weird that happens only one time. I think the one-time thing is that sometimes we say something mean, but we don't have an intention. Like we think it was a joke, but the other person didn't like it, and oh, I'm sorry, and everything goes on, and it's not bullying, of course. But if we keep going with that joke, and the person has showed that they don't like it, then we are starting to be bullies. And some people do this with their friends, and they're not aware. And it can hurt him a lot. And of course, we have people in our lives that do this, like family or some friends that are not so close. And sometimes we endure this type of abuse that can be soft and not very obvious, but it's still bullying. And it hurts.
Yeah, it's the tiniest thing that can then escalate in something much bigger inside you. So it's important to be able to recognize it. And what have you learned, if you can summarize, like from this, 10 years almost that you've worked on this project?
It's hard, like you were talking about the woke thing and the canceling culture, and actually people in my family call me woke, and
Okay.
I don't know exactly what that means. Am I awakened to abuse? Yes, I'm aware of abuse and things that shouldn't happen. I try not to be too hard, because if I'm always like the censorship of the group, then it's not fun. Like yesterday, my brother was saying something silly. Oh, I cannot say this with Ines here.
Okay.
And I was like, well, maybe. Why do you think that? Maybe because this isn't correct to say. But I mean, many times I don't say anything, but they know that they shouldn't say those things. But for some reason, it's fun to say things we shouldn't say. For sure, the first thing is, am I offending someone here that is present? If so, then we need to stop it.
So it's this awareness that you have of your words and
my words and other people's words, and these little things like I was in a group and someone said, "Oh, I'm being autistic," in a silly way. I was like, "What do you mean with that?" Because, and my colleague was like, "Oh, we can't say these things because some people here might be autistic, and we get offended with that type of expression." And he wasn't thinking about that in that way. Of course, I know there wasn't any malice in his way, so this wasn't bullying. But of course, if next time we are together he starts, "Oh, I'm being autistic, I'm being like this," that's intentional, and that starts to be bullying, and actually mean. We have to make sure that we're not offending the people in the room, and we don't know exactly who can identify with that joke or not, because many characteristics are not visual. So, for example, autism or being LGBT or any other thing, we don't know. Even if we think we know the person, we might not know all the information. And then, like, racist jokes. Okay, there's no one here that is offended directly, but do we need to say these jokes? Like, where does that need come from? I don't know exactly. Also, people who are in a position of privilege also might have more trouble empathizing with these issues. And of course, I have many privileges from the context I was born in. And I try to remember that when I'm talking about something, and especially about minorities. And I also have other things that I'm not privileged, and I belong to a minority. And if people talk about this minority, even if they're not talking about me, they still hurt.
There are so many hidden pains that we all have. And as you were saying, sometimes we don't know this story at all of one person, and we think we know the story of a friend, but there are so many hidden realities. Sometimes we do it without thinking. It's good to be reminded so that next time we are thoughtful about it. Do you have any advice for people who are listening, who are either being bullied or who are bullies? Sometimes the bullies themselves struggle to acknowledge that they are the bullies. So
yeah, I mean, I also have bullied my friends and my colleagues. We all do these things, and then we look back and think, oh, I shouldn't have done this, and I wasn't nice. But also think about the future relationships, how we're gonna deal with this. And many times people bully others because they are also not comfortable with themselves. They have some struggles, or they need to impose their position in a group, so they do this by putting other people down. So there's a lot of also struggles for people who are bullying, and this is not an excuse, of course. They have their responsibility, especially if they're adults. They are accountable. But if we are dealing with someone who has more this tendency to be a bully, if we actually want them in our lives, which is a choice that we might take or not, we can try to empathize and see what's underneath all this aggression, all this behavior. There might be some needs or some traumas. Sometimes we learn with our role models that this is the way to be in a group or with family or something. So there are many reasons that someone might do bullying. And sometimes they are victim in one place and bullies in another. So this can be a lot of things. But what I normally say is someone that is happy and well with themselves, they don't need bullying, And if someone bullies them, unless it's a very hardcore thing, they can also say, like, I don't care what you say. I don't care what you do.
Sometimes it's difficult to unlearn things that the society, the family, the friends, the circle that makes our subculture has taught us. I guess empathy is the key word.
Some groups, I see some groups of friends. Fortunately, it's not my case, but in other groups that I've been in, that it's teasing is the typical way of being. And I mean, if you're happy like this,
horrible, but yeah.
But I think it's weird that we, as friends, we need to tease and mock others. What's the goal there? And shouldn't we be more like supportive of each other and playful, of course, but not in a hurtful way? It's a choice, I think. But being aware of that, because sometimes we might feel a bit uncomfortable, but we don't understand what's going on. And so being aware of that, and also in family gatherings, like for Christmas and everything.
A sentence that always comes up. I think it has already come up in this season, which is by an Italian writer, Pirandello, who said, "La famiglia è una trappola, family is a trap." And this can be, of course, expanded to other contexts of our life. But Anyway, Ines, because I mispronounced your name at the beginning, Ines, I said, but it's Ines in Portuguese. Thank you so much for being with us today and sharing your knowledge and your experience. It was really great.
Thank you.